Hello, good evening. I'm Melisa, Idris.
And I'm Sharaad, Kuttan.
Welcome to Consider This. Now, tonight we'll be looking at the recent controversies surrounding the government funding to Tunku Abdul Rahman University College, or better known as TAR-UC. Joining us on the show, we have Finance Minister Lim Guan, as well as Datuk Yap Kuak Fong, who is the President of the TAR-Cian Alumni Association. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Melisa. Thank you, Sharaad.
Okay, so my first question is to you, Guan. Thank you so much for doing away with formalities. Now, the government has agreed to now channel 30 million ringgit to TAR-UC through a trust fund, and this will be managed by the varsity alumni. However, Guan, you're still adamant that the funds will only be released only after MCA relinquishes control. Now, why do you think that this is an acceptable solution?
Well, when we say that when MCA relinquishes control over TAR-UC, it doesn't mean that the trust fund, the monies cannot be used for the benefit of the students or the institution. So I think the problem is that when we say that we will only release to TAR-UC when MCA is no longer in administrative control, whether in terms of management or in terms of ownership, there is a perception that the government is not sincere in ensuring that money is made available. So in order to show that we mean what we say and say what we mean, we decided that we should then disperse the funds to a trust fund run by the TAR Alumni Association, where they can then decide how the funds are to be used for the benefit of the students, and also TAR-UC has an education institution. So this will then dispel the doubts expressed that we do not intend to come out with the money. So now the money is available. It is they will set up a trust fund. Once it is in operation by hopefully within a month, then the monies will then be made available for them, and the trust fund will then decide how the money is to be disbursed. And this will be done without any interference or any directive from the government or from any political party, solely decided by the Alumni Association.
Well, it seems infinitely reasonable on one hand, right? And it seems to be in step with the Pakatan Harapan's own ideas about institutional reform and such. But there's several issues I wanted to take up with you, because there is a history, a long history in which the MCA was involved in establishing this institution. They have a sense of ownership. That, you know, it must be difficult for them to relinquish control over something they themselves started.
Well, I'm sure it's difficult to relinquish control as a political party. But no, if they do not want to seek any public funding, then it's not a problem. But when we decided to carry out institutional reforms, one of the key tenets is separation between public funding and politically controlled organizations. I think this is a fundamental principle that is practiced in every developed democratic country. You just cannot use or misuse public funding for politically controlled organizations. So we wanted to adhere to that. And this is part of the institutional reforms has suggested, not only by the internationally renowned organizations, but all reformist bodies. So, but I think principle and perception are two different things. Whilst many appreciate our observance or adherence to this principle, but perception is that we are trying to deny funding, public funding for TAR-UC as an educational institution and also its students. So that's why we wanted to overcome that by showing that yes, whilst we want to adhere to this principle, we do not want the students or the institutions to suffer. And that's why we're coming out with this funding for this trust fund.
I want to come back to the institutional reform that Pakatan Harapan has promised, but I just want to set the context. I want to understand why this controversy has resonated with so many Malaysians, Chinese Malaysians as well, and the importance of TAR College then in 1969 when it was established at TAR College University, now since 2016 or 13. You know, it was seen to be a way for Malaysian Chinese to get access to tertiary education, especially since there was a quota system in place. So TAR College University matters to the Chinese community. Can you weigh in on why you think this controversy has resonated with so many people?
I think, first of all, this is very important when you talk about this part of it, being one of the alumnus
Yes.
of TAR-UC. I'm very proud to be a TARCian, by the way. We always say, once a TARCian, forever a TARCian. That is a kind of mission. That's why we heavily involve, or rather we devote our time into this TARCian Alumni Association. When you really trace back the history, back in 1969, when the government of the day, during 1972, I think, under the special parliament instrument, they granted TAR College a 1-to-1. That means when you donate one, the government will come out with one, that kind of facilities. And I think Chinese community really donated quite a lot of money. When you look at TAR at that time, when the TAR College was formed, it was run, or rather the whole body is under the trust fund, named as TAR Trust Fund. You remember that, TAR Trust Fund. And it was actually a public trust, all the while until 2013. When TAR College was upgraded to TAR-UC, the whole structure was changed. It changed from public trust to private trust. That means whatever money you have in the TAR Trust Fund no longer operate. Everything transfer, the asset and the money transfer to a private trust named as TAR Education Foundation. Then the structure comes in, you know. The structure of TAR Education Foundation, when we visited the M&A, a copy is here, you know. Under 8.2, you will see clearly there's a violation. The violation, the 8.2 says that the composition of the BOT of the foundation shall at all times be maintained at least 50% are not connected to the founders, or no connection with the foundation or any of its founders.
Right.
So it's a clear violation here, because when you look at the name that appears as Board of Trustees, all the 8 of them are MCA, either current leaders or ex-leaders. And worse, when you look at the structure, you know, of the subscribed member, it's supposed to have 30, but currently there are 15. All the 15, I have the list here.
Right.
All the 15 actually belonging to the same party.
Okay, just stop you right there, because it's a fascinating history and it really does clarify many things. But Guan, if you could jump in here and just tell us, one of the things about the perception is that this is kind of the Pakatan Harapan bullying a rival, or DAP in particular bullying a rival for the kind of loyalty of the Chinese community in the form of the MCA. How would you address that question?
No, as I said, reforms are sometimes painful and difficult. And that's why, whilst we want to adhere to the principle, but in order to reassure the public that we are not out to punish the institution or the students, we have made the funds available. So I think
have you engaged with the MCA? Have you engaged with the MCA?
Well, no, I have not engaged with them, and neither have they also approached us. I think basically there is a political stalemate, and why there is a political stalemate is the reason behind the principal stand taken by the government to separate politics from education. So as long as you have a political party controlling this TAR-UC, I mean, whether directly or indirectly, they will want to derive some benefit from it. They can claim innocence, but you are actually sacrificing the future of the institution or the prospect of realizing their full potential. Let a professional body run it. Okay, if at this present moment you still don't want to let go, then we will still make the public funding available, but through their own alumni. It's not some outside body. It is their own alumni, comprising of their former students who have succeeded in business as professionals and are really distinguished Malaysians. So why are you against not only your own alumni, but even those who are still members of a party.
Let's
And
come
that is
back,
why
gentlemen, and discuss this in a bit. We're going to cut to a short
Sure.
break and come back and discuss the role of politics and who has a space in the education sector. That's right. That's coming up next on Consider This.